All right, we are live Wednesday night for our Wednesday night live. And today we are going to dive into some Q&A. So we pulled some questions that we've gotten from our Facebook groups, from online, from the internet, and we're going to dive in and answer these questions for the viewers. And a lot of them are very simple questions that are often asked a lot. And these questions seem to be kind of recycled over and over again when we talk to clients, potential clients, or just people who have a general idea of what their goals are. We always have these built in questions of where to start exercise, what exercises to do, how to start. So, tonight we are going to dive in to those questions. And we will be giving away a couple bonus codes throughout the night. So be sure to pay attention and listen for those. We are like 3 weeks away from our drawing for exercise equipment and anything that you need for your home gym or where we can help you enhance your physical fitness journey and progress and make yourself better. And that's what we're looking for here. So, first question kind of came from the chat on online is how do I stay committed and focused? And this is one of these questions that is a hard thing to answer because it's an in-depth thing to understand for people. So, committed, how to stay committed. Well, a lot of people are committed to their job, relationships, their pets, whatever else it's going to be. It's the same concept, but you have to find that within yourself to stay committed to a program. And this is where a lot of people, once they've graduated school, we have this world of freedom besides our job and what other things we have is we don't really have to work towards something. And a lot of people kind of start coasting and taking the easy path down this road of life and they don't really commit to a lot of things. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be committed to or referencing an exercise program or nutrition. It can mean kind of anything, but I assume that this person asking is kind of how to stay committed and focused into a training program, nutrition program. And it's really understanding what your goals are and where you want to be and looking at that from a distance and not from where you are now. Because I think a lot of people look at themselves and they're not happy with where they're at or they know that they can improve. But think about your future self and look to where you want to be in 3 months, in 2 weeks, in a year, and then start kind of painting the picture backwards into, okay, what do I need to do to get there? And I think a lot of people who struggle with staying committed and focused are often people that are kind of almost living in this past world of what happened in the past, where a lot of times very successful people look at what's going to occur in the future and they tackle the present from that notion. And I've always kind of coached clients to have that future vision and understand your dream, what that is going to be. And then you got to hone into how are you going to get there. Because if you have a vision, well, that's great, but that's only a vision. And you need to put actions behind that to create that everlasting behavior chain and to stay committed. And it's really what it comes down to. It's a mental drive. Everyone's got different mental drives. Really successful people know how to stay committed and stay focused to one goal or multiple goals at a time, but they're going to drive themselves toward that goal no matter what. It might be a rough path, it might be a stop and go path, but at the end of the day, they know where that goal is going to be and how they're going to drive there. Now, when it comes to fitness and changes in our body types or whatever your goals are, it's hard to understand that because we don't get a lot or see because we don't get a lot of return right off the bat. And it takes time to see progression and changes. And a lot of times we're not built for this ever long changes over time. In society nowadays, we need this stuff instantaneously. If I don't see a change in 2 weeks, well, it must not be working. That's not the case. It's one of those where you really have to trust the process. When you get on that program, trust that coach, trust that program to where you're going to be. And it's a long-term development of fitness, and it always will be. And we have different goals within that long-term of fitness development. I think to stay focused, you have a little bit of these mini goals in between of kind of where you want to be. You pick benchmark things. So something that I do a lot is I pick benchmark numbers of where I want to be for some of my lifts. And I have those goal weights by certain times. And I know when I see these numbers going up, that I'm actually improving my overall strength. Now, there's other things where you can see overall improvement in fitness, capacity, the way you look. You can measure a lot of things. Runners measure distance, cyclists measure distance and time. There's all these things that you can measure. Now, most people are going to also look at mirrors and start measuring themselves in mirrors. That's going to be a little bit different, but it's the same concept. Trust that process as you're on your nutrition plan, your program plan, your workout plan, that it's going to get you there. And if you don't have that, and it's hard to find that within yourselves, well, look to models that help you. Programs are a great way. That's why we have coaches. That's why we are coaches. To have a piece of paper in front of you that literally says you need to do this, this, and this today. And oh, we're going to check in to make sure you're doing all these things so you can complete that day. And then when you look at it at the end of the month or the end of the week, you can go back and see, did I work out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? And you'll see that, boom, checked off, checked off. You can put a calendar on a fridge. Some apps on phones do it. They allow you to see that the workout is completed. And then when you look at it at a glance and might step back at a monthly view and you say, well, on 1 week, I only got 2 workouts in. It's going to be that signal to your brain to say, well, where did I really fall short that week? And that's not time to really make excuses. Just understand where you fell short. And then how do you make up for it the next week or the next month? And having those programs will drive you through. Same concept with like Peloton. They track your programs monthly. They track your rise. They have all this readily available. All you have to do is touch a power screen and pick a class. So these models are here to help people drive and stay committed, because it is not easy. And whereas coaches, I think we've kind of figured out how to do it and stay committed because it's what we love to do. And it's going to sound weird because fitness is a passion. So it's easy for me to wake up and say, okay, I'm going to get a lift in today and stay committed to the process. Other people, it's different, but you need to find what works for you to stay committed, stay focused, and keep driving you down the path. Because the more you hone in on that, the more focused you're going to be and the more you're going to want that. And it's that delayed gratification. You're going to wait a month or two, but if you stick and be consistent, you're going to see those results change drastically and you're going to feel it. And it's going to be a big motivational thing. And then that's what kind of keeps the ball going. So your first thing you do is you have to kind of start a process to stay committed to it. And over time, you're going to get those drops of dopamine to keep you motivated, to keep you going. Next question we have is, what are the best exercises when you suffer from chronic pain? This one is, there's no real best answer. And I think when it comes to best exercises, a lot of times people get it kind of wrong, or they're looking for this one go-to exercise that's going to cure all. When it comes to chronic pain, we really look at, first of all, are there any like issues from a health standpoint? Are there any diseases or autoimmune issues or something that's causing that chronic pain? And then we look at it from a postural standpoint, because usually chronic pain, if you take away the health side of things of disease or issues, it's going to rely from an overuse of muscles or tissues that are stuck in a certain pattern. And we get chronic use of those. and we keep driving those poor patterns. And that's what leads to compressed tissue. And that's pressing on the nerves to say, hey, we're in pain here. So when we really first look at it from a person who has chronic pain, eventually every exercise is going to be a best exercise. Now, the best exercises at first are going to be exercises that take you out of pain. And it might be really regressing backwards to understand how your body functions and to get it out of pain. And that's goal number one with anyone who has chronic pain, is to understand positions and patterns that will literally take you out of pain. Once the brain can learn to deregulate those muscle patterns in those tight tissues, then we can start working at these best exercises to get into proper movement mechanics. And like a squat is a really good exercise that everyone can be doing and should be doing. But if you have chronic pain, that really can limit people from movement, because the body is going to lock itself up and lose degrees of freedom or range of motion if it's going to be recognizing pain, because it doesn't want to go into that sensory feeling. So what happens? We get tight, we get worse, we get more toned and tensed up. So we lose mobility, flexibility, and then we go to exercise again, and that chronic pain comes back. So really pulling back and understanding that it's really resetting the body to function properly from a postural standpoint. That's what we really focus on our programs here. And what kind of my specialty is from a PRI standpoint is to train the body to function in the right pattern, to get people to sense and feel the right muscles working so they can turn on one side of the body and shut one side of the body off, and they can flow back and forth. Now, chronic pain could be lower back pain. It could be TMJ or jaw pain. They're all similar symptoms of putting too much tension somewhere in the body to create movement. So if you're one who's suffering from chronic pain or chronic issues, kind of addressing the full system and position patterns is going to be the first place to start. And it's going to be very simple movements. It's going to be 90-90 hip lifts. It's going to be turning on right glute maxes. It's going to be repatterning in the brain. And if you have further questions from there, you can always come on to our website, check us out, sign up for a free consultation. We can see what's going on from a pain standpoint, how your movement is, and what exercise or techniques might be best for you to get you out of that chronic pain, because that's step number one. Then you can get back to your loading, your lifting, your Peloton, your running, whatever it is. But if you don't address those patterns first and you keep layering your whatever exercise modality on top of it, it will become more problematic, and you'll lead yourself into more chronic pain because your body's not going to let go of that pattern and compressed tissue, and it's going to just be cyclical. Morning or later in the day workout. This one is always a fun one to answer, because there is kind of good science going into what time of day is actually better. But if you're looking at it from a whole, and if you're someone who is struggling just to get something in at any time of the day, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're getting something in daily, that's the most important aspect of it. Now, from a standpoint of morning versus later, there's pros and cons for both. If you exercise more in the morning, it can actually shift your circadian rhythm to get on a good cycle and go to bed earlier and wake up earlier. If you're that kind of person, that's what it's going to drive to. If you work out later in the day, it's going to shift your circadian rhythm even further. So if you work out at, like, let's say 5 or 7 p.m., your body's going to be stimulated, so it's going to stay up a little bit longer. So it's going to shift that circadian rhythm a little bit more to a later night person. And there's people out there who work out late at night. There's people who work out early in the morning. It's kind of what your preference is. Now, from a standpoint of hormones and strength, usually the best times, optimal times, are between 9:30 and 11 for strength and hormones, and then 2 to 3 in the afternoon. That's what studies have shown. Now, Obviously, most people are working during those times, so it's not optimal. Usually on this one, I tell people if they want to really set a good circadian rhythm, a good habit, wake up, do your workout in the morning. Because it doesn't have to be a focal point at night if things come up like it's summertime and people want to go out, or you get stuck at work late, or something arbitrary comes up that you have to skip a workout. It's already done in the morning because most people don't need you early in the morning. So think if you're getting up at, well, that's 5:36 or getting a workout at 7, most people's workday really don't start till 8. People really don't need you at that time. So it's easier to get it in. Obviously, it's different. You have kids and stuff, but better off to get it in early rather than late. That sets yourself up for a good nighttime sleep. Circadian rhythm will be on intact with a light day cycle, and it's going to push you forward throughout. Now, like I said at the beginning, if you're one person who just needs to get it in, it doesn't matter what time of day you really want to get it in. But overall, and eventually, we want to become pretty habit of when we're going to get our workout in and try to time that up at almost the same time every day. Next question kind of goes a little bit back to similar to the chronic pain, how to deal with tendinopathy of the hamstrings. This is very common, especially in runners, because of poor hamstring strength. Now, it doesn't mean runners only get it. Anyone can get tendinopathy in the hamstrings or any kind of tendon. A lot of times it's because how we're patterned and situated throughout the day. We're sitting, we're not really using our posterior chain. So our hamstring glutes really don't get the proper work that needs to be done or activated. So they're in a weaker position. And then when we really go to recruit them or ask a demand of them, they get a little bit worn out, torn. They can, be overstrained, overstressed. So what that one is really kind of letting it rest and then putting your body in positions where it's going to train those hamstrings to be efficient in a shortened position. So your 90-90 position, you're lying on your back, your knees are bent and feet are flat against the wall. And then your lengthened position. These could be your hamstring curls on a physio ball, a towel on a floor. So you're extending the legs out and back. The other thing with those exercises we also want to make sure is our pelvis is a little bit posterior tilted backwards. So we have optimal function of the hamstring in a good position, and we can activate those glutes with those. Because a lot of times if the glutes are offline, and most of the time they can be on humans because we're bipedal, we're upright in our slightly anterior tilted position, the glutes can actually not fire at the right time. So the hamstrings are going to try to control the pelvis more than we actually need them to. And then we just get overuse of them, and then we get some hamstring problems. So very simple, kind of working some posterior chain and hamstring stuff daily. I would kind of advise at really stretching or overstretching hamstrings. You're only going to make the problem worse, because if we're looking at hamstring tendons, if we keep stretching and lengthening tendon tissue, it's not really going to heal and become strong. We're just going to keep inhibiting what we're trying to actually do. So be very careful with stretching. That will actually make things worse at times. Another question coming in on the exercise side of things is, what is the minimal number of reps for a set to be effective? And this is always a question I get from a lot of my interns, because we're always looking at how to effectively train the human body, but what reps and sets are going to be optimal. And I had this question when I was an intern. I asked my mentor that, okay, what is the optimal number of reps per day I can do? Is there a set number? How many reps should I do per set? And it was always my goal to try to find the most effective and the perfect program to really understand and try to train my clients to be the best. And what I kind of realized is it doesn't exist. So when it comes to reps and sets, the minimal number of reps for a set to be effective can be 1. Now, if it's 1, that means the intensity, the weight on the bar or the weight in the hands has to be very, very heavy, and you're almost a very heavy load in order to drive that adaptation. Now, for most people, that's not going to be really efficient. So, what we look for is for general population, honestly, a minimal of 6 reps. 6 reps seems to be one of the best reps you can hit. And now, obviously, it's going to be multiple sets. So, one of my favorite rep schemes is a 4x6. So, you're getting about 24 reps. It's going to build strength, it's going to build size. Really, that's kind of a base of where a lot of my programs will start. And a lot of the programs that we have offered on our platform are really going to start with a 4x6. So 25 reps for strength and hypertrophy. If you're looking to gain a little bit more size, you're going to be upwards in the 35 to 40 reps per exercise. So that means you might do 4 sets of 10, gets you to 40 reps. But as long as you're in between 35 to 40, you're going to drive more growth of lean tissue or muscle mass. And perfect goal for a lot of people. When we look at something like 2 or 3 reps, that's going to look at more of our absolute strength. So it can be very effective depending on the goals, but the load has to be heavy enough to drive an adaptation. Now, if the load is lighter for 2 or 3 reps, we can really work on power and being explosive. We can start talking about jump training. Those can be very effective too. But a lot of times the minimal number of reps is going to be 1, and you really have this window. You can go up to 100 reps per set. Now, that's going to be, it could be squats. You could do 4 sets of 25 of squats at a lighter weight. You can do 2 sets of 50, whatever you want. As long as you're getting total volume in, you're fine. And what we like to coach for people listening is try to hit that 24, 25 target mark of reps per set, and you'll be fine. You'll be golden. Things will be cooking, and you don't have to really worry about, 3x8 or 8x3, 4x6, 5x5. As long as it's getting to a target rep, perfect. 25, 30 reps per set, good to go. Minimum, I'm a big 4-set guy, so 4 sets of something, and then we're moving on to the next exercise and pairing that up. And next question, jumping into the nutrition side of things, we got a question. How many grams of protein should be consumed a day? One of my favorites. Love protein. The king of all nutrients right there. And this one actually really depends on the person. Now, ideally, we want to get about, I like a gram per kilogram of body weight, or some people like to use a gram per pound. But when you do that conversion, it's going to be a little bit more protein, which is good. And I think that's why a lot of people use the gram per pound. It gets you about 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. And that's where a lot of people need to kind of be in, especially if they're working out and especially if they're active, to replenish that protein. We do have a protein number that we need to hit daily. Everyone's a little bit different. It's called the protein hypothesis theory, that our body is going to eat until we hit that protein goal, and then it's going to be satiated. And if we don't hit that protein goal, eating protein, the body will eat excess calories. It's been shown up to 15% more calories of other food to try to pull that protein out of the food to get there. So a lot of people are actually consuming more food and foods besides protein, processed foods, carbohydrates, rice, quinoa, anything else to get the protein than actually eating protein itself. So let's just say if you're a 100-pound person, get 100 grams in. If you're a 200-pound person, shoot for 200 grams of protein. So for me, myself, I'm around probably 220 grams of protein a day, which is going to put me in that 1.6 to 1.7 grams per kilogram measured. Now, the RDA is 0.8 grams per kilogram. This is the lowest anyone should go, because that is the bare minimum someone needs for optimal function of the body. And a lot of times people nowadays are dropping below zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram, and we're seeing a lot of excess caloric intake and excess increase of body fat because of all these calories we're taking to try to meet that protein requirement. So really, protein needs to be kind of on top of the list, first thing on your plate. That really should be that main focus of what we're getting in, because our body runs off of those processed amino acids. All these other things are driven from protein, and that's all protein is just amino acids. They're these building blocks of our body, our cells, our hair, our eyes, our nails, everything, you name it, is going to be amino acid driven. So it's really important to have that intake. Now, when we're talking ages of people, this is where it can get a little bit tricky and kind of fun, because people, or I should say kids who are in puberty, let's say 13 to let's say 18. Now, I know people might hit a little bit above or below, but a lot of those kids actually don't need as much protein. It's still good to get protein in, but it can be a lot more or a lot less, but they're going to get a huge dose of hormones from puberty. So their body can be very anabolic and it doesn't need as much protein. As we get into our 20s, we still need optimal protein, but not as much. 30s plus, this is where we're really needing to increase protein. And then when we talk about people really 50 plus, they need to prioritize protein, because the rate of skeletal muscle mass as we get older and we live a sedentary lifestyle increases drastically, and we're losing 2 to 4% almost every decade, or sometimes it's every year, research has shown. So in order to pull that back, we need to actually increase our protein as we get older, because the rate of turnover changes and our body doesn't actually absorb protein as efficiently as we age. Now, everyone's a little bit different, but to think that the quality of absorption is a little bit different, we need to intake more. So if you're younger, you can kind of get away with a little bit less, but as you get older, it becomes very important that needs to really be top and really kind of put in the priority on the plate. Now, if you're a young athlete looking for performance goals, protein needs to be a priority. Then it comes carbohydrates to replenish glycogen stores, then your healthy fats, because we need to have that balance of recovery and performance built in. So it's not like you can avoid protein or should avoid protein or don't have it because you don't need as much. You still need to get as much depending on your activity level, and the rate of protein will be a quick turnover for that. And that leads us to our first code. Our first code is going to be eat clean 80-20. So eat clean 80-20, and what that's going to obviously represent is eat clean 80% of the time, 20% of the time. You can kind of deviate a little bit, but a lot of times that 80-20% rule really holds into play of like, hey, we got to be on point with our patterns, our behaviors, our dedication 80% of the time. 20% it can kind of be pulled back a little bit, but majority of it's going to be driving for optimal performance, living, and health. Next one is on a exercise side of things, is why is it hard to gain muscle? And I think this kind of stems from the protein question, because a lot of times people get stuck in this, I want to gain muscle or tone up, and they're doing all this work and they're crushing it in the gym, but they're not seeing the benefits on the other side. And I was one of these people. I would work out very hard. I would go home and crush a lot of food. One of my go-tos back in the day was I'd go home, box of Kraft mac and cheese. I know it's not the best now, but this is when I was in high school. I would make that and eat that whole thing. And I was like, oh, well, I'm getting plenty of calories. There's protein in it. But when you look back at it, I wasn't getting enough protein. And it wasn't really until I started increasing my protein intake to my optimal levels or above. And people can go 2.0 grams per kilogram higher. I've been up at, I think, almost 2.2 or 2.5 grams per kilogram. There's no really end limit. The research has shown there's no adverse effects. If you have more protein, it just increases lean body mass. It doesn't get turned into fat. So when I've been up that high and I've gone to those levels, boom, I can put on the muscle mass and recover, and it's going to complement my program. So if it's hard for someone to put on muscle, it's not the weight training program itself. It's probably the nutrition of pulling in more protein and more nutrients. And that's usually one of the conversations we have with our athletes on our programs is they're seeing their numbers go up, but then they kind of hit a hard stop and they see their numbers on the scale go up, their lean body mass kind of stays, and their overall numbers in the weight room start to kind of plateau because they're not progressing their system harder from a recovery standpoint or adding more lean body mass, lean muscle mass for the system to adapt to. And this doesn't matter if it's male or female. We all need to increase lean body mass because it shows that if we increase lean body mass alone, that's going to be the biggest driver of performance increase. And that's what we look for from our athletes. Let's see. Next question. Is it a personal problem or a common fitness problem? I get very tired after the first 20 to 25 minutes of play. I'm a winger. It feels like a brick is weighing on my central chest. I'm going to guess that this person is a soccer player or a hockey player. Apologies if I mix up the sports, but it can be a common fitness problem for people who are conditioning level is not at the level of where they want it to be or in need of the sport. So when we do look at the first 20 to 25 minutes of play and you feel like you're hitting a brick wall, it's very hard to breathe, you're going to have to look at your program and go back and probably focus more on conditioning and training your energy systems to be more efficient. Now, this is going to mean you have to do more cardio and in different ways. A lot of times people when they hear the word cardio, they think, oh, I just need to go run a mile and I can do that over and over again and increase cardio. Well, from a sports aspect, that actually can be the wrong approach, depending on the sport. Now, if this person's a winger, let's say hockey or soccer, those are aerobic sports, but they're very anaerobic sports built in. So there's periods where there's high sprinting, there's high power output that your needs are going to really ramp your system up. Now, where people kind of get stuck when they do, let's say, cardio for a mile or an average pace is if they don't pull their heart rate up to that threshold, when they get there, their system's going to be like, holy hell, what's going on? And the body's going to lack the ability to transfer energy, nutrients, and have the capacity to do that over and over again for the first 20, 25 minutes at a different pace. And this is where varying your cardiovascular system will really come in handy. So one day you might do more of a steady state aerobic for 20, 30 minutes at a certain heart rate or certain zone. The next day, you're going to bring it into sprint training to really drive into those high intensities and aerobic zones. And then there's going to be days where you're going to bring it into this kind of anaerobic glycolytic. So you're going to live between 20 seconds and 60 seconds of almost all out work. And it's going to suck and it's going to be kind of hell. Then you recover, but you're building these energy systems. So your aerobic system, your intermediate, your anaerobic glycolytic system to transfer over, and your creatine phosphagen system to produce more ATP. So yeah, it's a personal problem, but a lot of people have it because their conditioning is not up to par. If you are one that's kind of looking to dive into sports or play sports, conditioning about a month or two out of your sport is going to be very key. And if you're someone who's currently playing a sport, then it's going to be really that focus on conditioning almost every single day. It's you don't wake up and just be like, hey, well, I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow. Yeah, some people do. But for optimal performance standpoint, I wouldn't be anywhere good if I did that. Now, even if I trained, I probably still won't be that good because I'm not a runner. But people who train consistently for their sport in their cardiovascular range, some of them still deviate. So, marathon runners don't just run at one pace for all their training, they go at different paces. And people who play sports need to do the same thing. Depending on what your sport is, you're going to do that more often. Now, take sports away. If you're someone who's just looking for general fitness, the same concepts apply. Have a day where you do your lower end cardio, have a day where you do your high end cardio, your sprints, your explosive stuff, and have a day where you do your middle work. And that's all going to build our systems to be very flexible to what you want to do and to how to go about training your energy systems to be your best health. So hopefully that answers that question. It's going to be a very common problem for people, but it's a personal problem. Get on some conditioning programs. If anyone's listening and they want some conditioning programs, we have them. Go check out our website. That's kind of one thing we've done in our past is really written a solid 3-day conditioning program to really optimize your conditioning if you want to kind of really direct and go into that realm. A lot of our clients will go into the more conditioning side because it's a different pace from our strength training programs or our just weight training programs. But in every program, there are conditioning aspects built in because everyone should be doing conditioning, even if they're on a strength training program, because that conditioning is going to allow the capacity of strength and ability to do reps and sets to be increased over and over again. At the bottom of any pyramid when it comes to this world of fitness, it's going to be building capacity. So we also want to build the capacity, build our engine, the ability to handle the amount of stuff we're going to put in it so we can get that out of it. Moving on, about a couple more questions to go here. And if you're listening live and have any questions to ask, feel free to drop in on the chat. We will answer any questions live. How should an exercise program be? Very kind of generic question, but very good question. So when we look at a pyramid of exercise or a pyramid of how to dive into programming, at the very top of the pyramid, we have speed. As we come down a layer, we have power. As we come down another layer, we have strength. And then the last layer is capacity. And we always want to build from the foundation up. You don't build the top of the house first and then build down and don't have a good foundation. So the program base should be capacity. So as we start off in any program we write, we're going to have a general prep phase of capacity where we're training your aerobic system to handle a good amount of volume to really increase your tank size to be able to handle what's coming next. Then we look at the strength aspects and the next tier up, building yourself to be strong, to have good quality tissues, to not break down in sport, in life, and whatever activity you do. Then we have power, explosive movements, really fast movements, or a quick, let's say 5-second movement or burst that needs to be done. Now, whether this weight room, sport, or just even in the world, think power is going to be if you need to scoop up your kid really quick and pick them up and kind of run them to the bathroom or whatever that is, something quick and explosive, and then speed kind of ties into that. So when we look at programs, it's the same thing. And then when we look at a day to write a program, it's the same kind of concept. Now, it might not be all in one day, but you might have at the top, you might have your speed stuff. So these are going to be your fast movements, your Olympic list if you do them, your jumping, your sprinting. Then it's going to come down to your power work. Same thing. It's kind of jump, sprint with a little more resistance on. Then you get into your strength work. And like we said earlier, for optimal reps, try to get 25 to 35 reps in per exercise. And then at the bottom, you can do your capacity. These are going to be like your lighter weight exercise at the end, your bicep curls, your triceps, your lateral raises, your hamstring curls, your glute stuff that's not compound exercises, but it's still going to add to what someone's goals are. I always throw things at the end of what people want to do, and if it's going to drive what they want from a standpoint of if they want triceps, biceps, glutes, hamstrings, whatever, we do a little more extra there at that time. But that's really how a program should be structured. And it doesn't have to be complex. It could be 4 to 5 exercises, varying volume and intensities. But what we really do here at Think Fitness Life is we've embodied the way of the science and how to put a program together that's most efficient for our clients who are on them. And when we do the custom or individualized program, which if you have questions on, feel free to drop us an email, go to our website, sign up for that consultation. We offer these things for especially for private. We look at everything from health history, biomechanics, postural assessment to provide the right program for what you're going to be looking at from a movement standpoint and what your goals are. So when it comes to programs, we've written thousands of programs and continue to write programs for people and trying to find out what programs are the most effective and efficient. And we really kind of narrowed that down. So a lot of times it takes away people thinking I need to do 12 exercises when I go to the gym. Well, I'll tell you what, that's the wrong thing to do, because if you do 12 exercises, your body's not really going to adapt to what it wants to. It's like it's too much on your plate. Like anything else, the simpler it is, the more the system's going to adapt to it. So if we keep things very simple and drive the system to one way for adaptation, well, that's how it's going to go. Can't go in there doing things 12 plus exercises and going at random every day. The system won't adapt to it. So when we look at exercise programs, it really has to be methodically thought out from a standpoint of what that person's goals are. What big movements are we? So we're definitely going to do a hip hinge. We're going to do some sort of squat variation. We're going to do an upper body pull, an upper body press. We always want to get those core exercises in. And then we want to get core in. We want to do glutes. We want to do some abs in. That's always a staple of every program. Then as we stem out from it, we go more and more on the in-depth side of things. So when it comes to kind of how programs should be, there's a lot of different ones out there. A lot of times what we do here is a tier system. We superset things. So we'll go total body, then upper body exercise, then a lower body exercise, back to an upper body. We're really pairing it to get as much out of your time. We don't want people in the gym for 60 plus minutes. Really, we want to be almost at 45 to 60, no longer than 60 to be efficient, because we do realize people don't have 2-3 hours to work out per day. And that's really not optimal, because that is a time that people have to understand that if we have to commute to work, we have kids, we have to take care of pets, we have other things that we have to take care of in life. That's normal. I get that. So we do really structure these programs. We have half-hour programs. We have 45 minutes. If you want a 60-minute, we'll do 60. We really don't go over 60, because really you should be getting the most amount of effort in that 60 minutes. Unless you're really an endurance athlete who needs to go past 60, that's totally fine. We can do that. But from a strength standpoint and resistance training standpoint, really no need to go past 60. And we'll go last question here, and we'll start kind of finishing up here. And we have, how does someone lose weight and build muscle at home? Good question. A lot of these questions really, these ones kind of came up during COVID times when we really had to shift the model of exercise and health and fitness to more of an indoor online model. And a lot of people were kind of really stuck because they didn't have the gym. Now, if you do have a gym, that's great. And I think one of these reasons why we wanted to do this giveaway is to help people really maximize their exercise time if they don't have the ability to go to gym, or they don't want to go to the gym. But at home, if you do have equipment, the number one thing to do for someone to lose weight and build muscle mass at the same time is going to be, first of all, is getting on a sound program. And that's going to be a program of proper nutrition. So really honing in on what you're eating. Make sure it's protein rich. We're getting good vegetables, some fruits, still some carbohydrates, but not heavy on the carbohydrates. And that's going to help drop your caloric intake, but increase satiety through the protein and help your metabolism shift into what we're going to do on the exercise side of thing. When it comes to programming, if we really want to lose weight, there's kind of two ways I do it in our program. There's going to be a more of a volume day, and there's going to be more of a strength day. So on the volume day, we're going to hit reps of 8+. It could be 8 reps, 12 reps. Sometimes it's 15 reps. Those are going to be multiple sets to really drive a hormonal response, but really increase total muscle mass used and oxygen intake for that. So what we're going to really try to push is a full body routine, keeping the heart rate high, using as much muscle mass as we can, because we want to put on lean body mass in a good way, because that's what's going to help increase our metabolic rate at rest. Now, for a lot of guys, that's a great thing. A lot of females here, oh, I don't want to put on a lot of lean body mass. Well, you're not really going to put on that much. I mean, it took me a long time to put on 20 pounds of muscle mass, and that's with a lot of eating. So on a resistance training program, I tell a lot of females, like, you're not really going to put on that much muscle mass. Your body's not built for it, but we do want to increase protein and we want to do resistance training, and you're going to get that kind of lean tone aspect of, if that's what you want, where you want to be. Now, for guys, if they really want to build muscle, they're going to have to increase their protein almost tenfold, really get that increase. So that is the high volume day. Then we're going to have a really strength day where we're going to go back to my 4x6. I love 6 reps. We're going to work a little bit heavier. We're not going to try to put on a lot of muscle mass in this program. If we did, I would do high volume every day, but we want to build strength. And that 6 reps at a heavier weight is going to allow the system to build type 2, so our type 2 muscle mass, but really be more metabolically active from those type 2 muscles. And that's going to drive more intake of glucose and the body, muscles and body's ability to burn more calories at rest and take in nutrients so they don't get stored as fat. And it just keeps people strong and healthy. It increases load on bones, which increases bone density. It increases tendon strength, ligament strength, and muscle strength. Everything does not need to be lightweight. And the third thing of this is going to be a conditioning day. And this could be, at first, it's going to be more of your lighter 20, 30 minutes of aerobic work. And then we're going to work into, one of my go-tos is really kind of sprint training, whether it's a assault bike, a bike, or just sprinting outside, really increasing that heart rate and targeting those type 2 muscle fibers from a high power output to really drive the system to lose that weight. And really simple, getting on that program and sticking to it, and you're going to see results. If you want to know more about the program, same thing, go to our website, contact us. We have an app coming soon, but we can still get you that program over as we're building that app out, so you can have that readily available. And it's a very simple Excel sheet. You're going to get it. You fill it in. We're going to monitor it. And you can start that tomorrow if you want. If you want a program to lose weight and get strong and put on muscle mass, we can get it to tomorrow. I don't care if you're a 16-year-old boy. I don't care if you're a 45-year-old mom. It doesn't matter. That program is going to be very interchangeable and custom made for what you want. Kind of finishing up here, our last code is going to be SLEEP87. And what we gave 2 codes away for this drawing that we have that's starting to come to an end. And I think rightfully so, as someone's going to kind of get some exercise equipment and some gear to kind of really kickstart their programs, or to kind of add to what they already have from a standpoint of equipment to be able to have more versatility to be in that world. So a lot of kind of questions were answered today about health, nutrition, kind of where to start, how to start. And it all kind of encompasses of what we teach here is it's a full kind of revolution of us. Like, there's not one aspect you can just focus on. It really has to be everything. But as like we started with, it really starts with that mindset. I could sit here and tell you the perfect program. I could write it down. I can give you it. I could tell you the perfect diet program to be on, what works, what doesn't. But if you don't have that mindset right, it becomes very difficult to kind of keep that consistency. So as we kind of close off here, just start thinking about where you want to be and how consistent you want to be in your life, in your fitness program, in your fitness journey, and how we can get you there. Because that's what it is at the end of the day, is seeing yourself and envisioning what your future could look like and driving towards that. And as we kind of leave here and finish, if as always, come check us out at thinkfitnesslife.com. We are offering programs, nutrition plans, consultation, postural assessments, whatever you kind of need. If you're a young coach out there looking for more, we do offer mentoring and coaching and kind of diving into the science of coaching, exercise, programming, training, all that stuff to kind of guide people and maybe help other people. So signing off, this is kind of our Wednesday weekly check-in, or just kind of our Q&A. A lot of times it's going to be a forum. So if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in on the Facebook, on Instagram, wherever. We'll get them. We'll answer them. We'll get your questions squared away. So Eric, this is signing out. Think Fitness Life. Everyone have a good rest of the week. Go into the weekend, get things done, be consistent, stay healthy. Have a good one.